Alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today, and I'm bringing you another Dragon Ball discussion about Dragon Ball Super and the Tournament of Power. But as always, if you guys haven't caught up to where Dragon Ball Super is as of episode 125 to episode 128, this video will contain spoilers about those episodes, so if you guys don't want to get spoiled, I suggest you tune off this video because this video will be having a general overall conversation about a theory that me and my friend came up. So let's get this party started. So, the other day I was driving home from the gym and I talked to my friend Jax Blade about something that was going on in our minds. We were talking about Dragon Ball Super going on this hiatus in Goku's future. And if you guys remember, recently I uploaded a video about Goku's future where I was talking about what's next for Goku. What villain could possibly be created that could fight Goku at this point when you look at how high Goku is already in power, other than creating the angels as potential villains throughout the Dragon Ball series? And then, after posting that video and also looking at my community responses on the community tab, I noticed that a lot of you guys came up with this interesting concept and theory that it's not impossible to believe that the strongest mortal is actually not fighting in the Tournament of Power. And I'm going to be bringing up a lot of different points that I, saw in the comment sections I brought up with Jax Blade and more, and talking about, is it actually possible that we could have a mortal that's actually stronger than Goku and Jiren that's not actually fighting in the Tournament of Power? So let's get straight into the actual meat and potatoes of the discussion, and let's start off with talking about recruitment. So recruitment is an extremely important part to analyze in all of this, because if you guys remember, when we look at the Tournament of Power, right, the recruiting process was handpicked by the God of Destruction, the Supreme Kai, and the Angels. So in theory, it's kind of being put on the onus of these three characters to find the best that they can to fight for their own respective universe. And if you guys remember specifically for Universe 7, Beerus kind of let Goku pick his own team because he trusted that Goku knew the strongest people to fight for Universe 7. But I think Universe 9 is a more interesting case here, guys, because if you guys remember, Universe 9 was actually struggling to find people to fight for their own universe, and if you guys remember, they had a limited amount of time to recruit their team in the first place. So what if Universe 9 actually had an extra week or two to go out and find more fighters to fight for the universe? I'm not saying they would have done better in the Tournament of Power, and they still probably would have been the Jobber universe, but are you telling me they couldn't have possibly have swapped out one of the 1 or 2 weaker characters that they found with stronger characters had they had more possible time to look up all of these, mortals that live in their own respective universe? Because you guys gotta remember, although it was said that in Universe 7 that there's only 28 planets that have intelligent life, you can't believe that in the universes out there besides Universe 7 that there aren't billions of planets and billions of specimens that you could find in all of these different spectrums of life that could possibly be stronger than the 10 that you handpicked to fight for the tournament. And obviously, this brings me back into a conversation where we go back to the Universe 6 tournament, guys, because if you remember, Vados essentially picked the 5 characters that would fight for Universe 6 versus Universe 7, as obviously she found the characters that she found fitting to fight for Universe 6, which is why, obviously, looking at the fact that Hit and Frost were essentially villains, even though Hit was more of an assassin than a villain, and Frost was a complete villain that obviously had a good image within its own universe, she didn't really care and factored that in. She just found the characters that she found were strongest to fight for Universe 6. So when you look at that, it clearly tells you there that your character's background has nothing to do with all of this, and you're just trying to find the strongest characters. But looking at Kale and Caulifla, there were clearly 2 stronger Saiyans that were even more powerful and had more potential than Kappa from what we see, that could have fought for Universe 6 that were not participating in the tournament. So, looking at the Universe 6 tournament, there's no way we can say that for the Tournament of Power, there couldn't have been stronger mortals than, let's say, a Dr. Rhoda that could have possibly have fought for the Universe 6 team, and we clearly found that out because nobody knew how much potential Kale had, and nobody knew how much potential Caulifla had because nobody even knew that they would even be able to turn Super Saiyan in such a short amount of time. And obviously, guys, I know that that's poor writing to just make them so strong so fast, and I obviously know that maybe the conception of their characters wasn't thought about as of the time of the Universe 6 tournament, but when you think of it in canon to the Dragon Ball Super universe, it isn't impossible to believe that there could have been a stronger mortal than the ones that we actually found. And then this brings me into an even bigger point here, guys, because I want to talk to you guys about the exempt universes, and here is where the potential of Dragon Ball Super is even greater. So obviously, there were 12 universes that were present for the Tournament of Power, right? But only 8 of them actually fought in the Tournament of Power, which left us with 4 exempt universes that had no participation in the Tournament of Power. And if you guys remember, it's Universe 1, it's Universe 5, it's Universe 8, and it's Universe 12 that did not fight throughout this universe. And that brings me into a question. Do we know for sure that there might not be a mortal in those 4 universes that were exempt that could possibly be stronger than Goku and Jiren? Because if you guys remember, Belmont actually has a relationship with Jiren, and that whole rumor about a mortal being stronger than the gods obviously can play a role because Jiren obviously exists and the gods are obviously aware of who Jiren might actually be, so the rumor would make more sense. But what if you're a powerful mortal that you never really show off your power, you're a quiet individual that just exists within your universe, and you exist within the exempt universes that didn't even fight in the Tournament of Power? Are you telling me that the exempt universes cannot possibly have a mortal that could fight on the level of the characters that we're actually fighting? And if you guys think about it, a lot of these characters that fought in the Tournament of Power were weaker than many of the weaker characters of Universe 7 and more, which lets you know that there are certain individuals that are so strong that they make the majority of the Tournament of Power fighter characters look like jabronis in the grand scheme of things. So looking at the existence of the exempt universes, I do think that it is quite possible that there could be a mortal within those 4 universes that were exempt that could actually fight. And the next thing we want to talk about here, guys, is actually dealing with the motivation of these characters. So in many ways, guys, although obviously the Tournament of Power is a setting where most people should be motivated because if they lose they get eliminated, you gotta think the fighters kind of have a choice in the matter. So not only do the gods actually have to find these respective fighters in the universe filled with billions of life forms, but on top of that, the fighter actually has to be motivated to fight on their own accord. And Universe 3 was an interesting case here because essentially they were all robots to an extent. So because they were all robots and Dr. Paparoni obviously had a big role in assembling the team, you gotta also compare this to other universes where the mortals actually have more of a say in more. And because of this, if you are a villain who is one of the strongest characters in your own respective universe, and you will not participate in the Tournament of Power unless the God of Destruction or Angel or, you know, Supreme Kai bribes you into giving you a lot of money, or your own planet or your own, you know, sector of the universe, you might not be interested in fighting. Even though it is obviously important that you want to fight to survive, you might be so willing to go down without fighting that you can try to bribe these deities into doing what you want. And we didn't see the recruiting process for all of these own respective universes, so in many ways, the motivation of these fighters can play a role into assembling the strongest possible team anyways, and because of this, it even makes it harder for you to find the needle in the haystack when it comes to fighting fighters that even want to fight for the universe anyways, because everybody can have their own individual motivation when it comes to the Tournament of Power. And this brings me into my final point, guys, where I want to talk to you guys more specifically about the villains of the Dragon Ball world here. And the biggest question in all of this is, if Dragon Ball Super is really coming to an end, and it's not just a hiatus and there's going to be a new series, or if Super picks up, do you see a potential scenario where a secret mortal that we didn't know about existed that posed a threat to Goku and his friends? And if you guys want me to tell you the truth, other than the angels, which I obviously said before are deities that could probably make the best potential villain plot, as they kind of played around with the evil angel concept even though that theory is dead, I kind of think this is the only route that Dragon Ball Super has to go, because if you want to bring a villain into the Dragon Ball storyline, you kind of have to find somebody who kind of already exists, or you have to create a plot of creating an ancient character from so long ago that can now fight with Goku and all of these other characters, because at this point I think the Dragon Ball storyline is having a problem of fighting characters that can actually fight on par with the characters that already exist. And as we've already said before, Zeno is a plot device, so in many ways it's hard to find somebody that could even compete with Zeno, because Zeno doesn't fight. Zeno just erases you from existence, and his power is kind of irrelevant when it comes to actually trying to take him down within the own respective universe itself. So ultimately, guys, my verdict on this theory is that I don't think it's likely that there is a mortal that could be stronger than Goku and Jiren when you consider how many feats these characters have actually demonstrated proportional to the gods that already exist. But I don't think it's impossible, and if Dragon Ball Super were to ever get a new villain, they're kind of limited in what route they would take, as this is kind of one of the only ways when you look at how strong Zeno is compared to everybody else, and when you look at the fact that the storyline is obviously going away from the evil angel theory that everybody else had. So with everything else said, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys, and let me know if you think this strongest mortal theory has any substance in your own opinion.